Welcome to another episode of the Bloody Mission podcast. Today, we are sitting down for part 3 of the Tassie Trail with Steeley and Jesse to hear all about the adventures from their perspective. So get yourself comfortable for this awesome chat and remember to follow, like, and share our content as this really helps with growing the podcast. Cheers.
Campsite? Yeah. Mate, it's we've got the Mexicans here in Cal's Bar, which is good.
We do.
And it's a joy to have them here. And, you know, we, for the punters listening at home, we had a few tins last night. You know, we're celebrating, well, not much, just really that we were hanging out again. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the boys had tipped a few in last night and probably feel a little dodgy this morning. However, nothing beats a hangover than more beer. So we've decided that we're going to have another beer. And that's what we're going to do to start. Because every conversation, a good conversation starts with a creamy... I won't say that.
Well, yeah, we're bringing the creamy pint side of it, Jesse and I.
Yeah, we've got the Guinness.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers, boys. Good to see you. Good to see you. Well, boys, it is 5 months since the trip. And it kind of feels, you said it before, it kind of feels like forever, right?
Yeah.
It kind of feels like it was maybe a year ago. But, we'll get into a whole bunch of stuff soon, but I wanted to understand from your perspective, what are like 2 things that you remember straight off? The second I go, what do you remember from Tassie? What's like 2 things that come to mind for you?
Boom. Pressure's on.
Yeah, I mean...
All right, watching him turn it on. When he was
leg 3.
Yeah, when he was whinging about being crook and sitting in the bunk, and you were sulking a bit about getting the first night run, and then you were legitimately correct.
Yeah.
And you were legit, and I was in your I was kind of in your slipstream too, whinging about being crook as well.
Yeah,
because it didn't help.
We whinged together.
Yeah, we were whinging together, and then watching you just switch, and then go run, and then I thought I was telling these guys when you started, because I was at Quamby Corner and we followed you up the road.
Yeah.
And then I think you'd had like some paracetamol or something, and you were just fucking fanging it up the road, and I was saying to these guys, look, he's not going to be all right in like 2 hours. Like once this Panadol wears off, he's going to feel like shit. And you were like, no, I'm good. And we were telling you to slow down. It's like, no, it's because your switch had just gone. And then, sure enough, like 5 hours later, you're still going. And it was literal inspiration. I was like,
well, there you go.
Well,
have I told you that before?
we talked about it earlier, and I remember, one of the things I do remember is exactly that, getting to, I think it was about 7 Ks in, before it hit that trailhead that started to climb that bluff. You specifically were like, you need to slow down.
You need to chill, man.
Like,
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I feel fine. And there was concern, and I took it on board and went, oh, okay, maybe, but I feel fine, and I kept feeling fine.
Yeah, and then you were totally right. And then I was like, all right, well, maybe I don't feel like shit, and maybe I can go do it myself next tomorrow.
Because you were crook, right?
Yeah.
Like you flew in, we picked you up. You weren't good from pretty much day dot.
But the other thing, it's intoxicating coming here, and like, you know, I had like 4 beers at the brewery. Like even though I'm crook, you know, we're all catching up. And like
everybody's doing it.
And then that night, I realised, I'm actually crook, and I might not be able to do this. And I was in your slipstream, like, we're crook, you know, maybe we can't do it.
And I think it's one of those things too, when you come to something like this and you've trained for it, you're always thinking, don't get sick. You know, you want to get to the event.
I was on the plane, mask on.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, super stressed about like getting to the point that maybe you guys were like certainly close to or at. And so then it's kind of what you said. It's like, we're here.
Yeah.
Like, well, let's kind of do it. But yeah, okay, so the switch on, like,
it was nice
that was
it doesn't matter, you got to go do it.
Not taken away from what we've just been talking about, this achievement, but as soon as you started talking, Steely, you were like, what were the 2 things that have stuck with you or like come up for you? This guy.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
And doing exactly what you were just talking about on the back of sickness, and then doing 100K. And like, that was just hugely impressive. And that definitely sticks with me.
I do remember, the first leg, right? And there was the moment where we picked the second leg.
Yeah.
And then, like I remember looking at Steely, and there is film, there is clip of this, where he's like, it's like, it's going in through this moment of like...
He's mathing.
He's mathing. It's getting real close to maybe doubling up. Because for those, just to catch everyone up, we had predetermined or randomly picked, but pre-picked the last 5 legs, right? So the first 5 no one knew about. When it was happening. But I remember seeing his face, and it's like, uh-oh.
Yeah, the numbers.
You
The numbers
pulled it dirty on me. You pulled it out and you looked right at me.
Jesse. And I felt a huge amount of conflict in that moment because I was just like celebrating, and then immediately I was like,
One step closer to the
this
Monday.
is hard.
And that lasted for about 0.3 seconds.
And then I got to the end of my run. We pulled out.
I remember just crawling behind my little face mask and just, fuck, what am I going to do?
Yeah, but there was a real 50-50 of that because you were crook, but you wanted to do it.
Yeah, at the same time.
You
100%.
desperately
When else are you gonna do it?
wanted to do 100K.
Especially after seeing your run, I was like, oh, you can just do it. It doesn't like, so my training was, I kind of over prepare for these things. Like I had a little chat GPT coach and I was like monitoring all my heart, like rate variability, and I was uploading it every day.
He was asking it, how many beers can I have?
And I had everything planned, and then it was nice to just see you like everything didn't go right, and then we still did it. And so then I was realizing, oh well, maybe I should just do it. Just whatever happens, nothing's right. It's not working. Like the plan is, but I've done some training, so just do it. Just go.
And I think Cal and I, in one of the earlier podcasts when we first chatted about the back end of the Tassie Trail, some of the stuff that came up was that you get so used to going out on events where you do that. You've got your coach ready to go. You know the elevation, what every hill's going to look like.
You know the starting time.
The starting time, where the checkpoints are going to be. All those types of things we control. You take that away. And in my mind, it wasn't just taking that away. This was the first time that probably the majority of us had run, probably with the exception of you, Cal, had run an event that first and foremost wasn't for you, and secondly was part of a team. That was where my biggest concern came from. It wasn't being able to run those legs. It was the fact that how I ran those legs was going to impact the rest of the team, and that was where the biggest concern came from for the whole lot.
It's funny you say that because it's like it's ironic.
It is
right, because normally if you go and do that 50, like you're saying,
you're supported by a team.
And you're good, man. But you're thinking,
plan.
I don't want to, and we'll get to the second half later, but I don't want to put Jesse into a spot that maybe he's not feeling super comfortable about. So I need to be quick. Like, it's a funny mental thing that goes on. That
formed heaps of our conversations out there, and likewise with you, Steel, coming into that 100. And I think when I unpack it on reflection, that's where a lot of that came from. There was a lot of conversation about how this is going to affect the team and where we're going to be next and who's going to be where, and then all that sort of stuff plays into it. And that's exactly the outcome that we'd sort of not intentionally designed what we wanted, and it did it. By running it that way, it actually got those outcomes, which I reckon is pretty cool.
Well, no, 100%. This is like the second thing that comes to mind. I was sitting here this morning thinking about, what are some of the themes that really stood out to me that I want to talk about today, and that exactly nails it. It's that kind of idea that, running is kind of this somewhat selfish thing. It's about your own kind of pain and suffering. But there was something about this event where it was about being able to turn that, like, attention to other people and be like, there's other people I need to think about. I remember it was about 40k into my first leg, and the sun had gone down. It was getting cold. I was just kind of like, this is shit. And then I was like, I can't complain because, like, I'm handing over to Dan, who's going to go throughout the night, and I need to think about how I can support the other people around here. And it's kind of like, I think being able to get through your own pain is so much more kind of feasible when you start to turn it around and think about other people, and that really stood out to me.
That's a real good point, man, because I think there was that dynamic of like the team component, but there was also like the fundraising side. So it's like this whole energy of like, we're doing it for someone else or you're doing it for your mate, but also someone's like chipped in, a couple of 50s to for me to do it. So there's all this like mix of emotion that is not normal
And
For
they
when
were
you
coming
go-
in live
Yeah.
too. So, you know, like, because we were putting some stuff up on socials,
Yeah.
I was getting messages, oh, I've just donated because I watched,
Yeah.
this is awesome what you're doing. And so you're getting these messages. I think, like, I got a message from my osteopath, you know, it's just like, just donate.
ChatGPT.
Can you say, can you come down and give me some treatment right
Yeah,
here?
yeah.
This is the donation.
That was
I
part of
need.
the plan.
Well, I remember your first leg, Jess, and remember Cords came out to see you?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
because there was a river crossing, right?
Yeah.
And like this river crossing, depending on the time of the year, can be actually quite dangerous.
Yeah.
So we were okay. Well, we thought we were okay, and presumed we were okay given the time of year. But there was a bit of stress going into that, particularly from our side, going, well, hang on. How do we actually get someone through that section?
Yeah.
Because it's a big
Well,
fucking
to get
river.
the cars to kind of like the point that was near where I was coming through was still a little bit of a way away
Yeah.
as well. So yeah, even getting to that kind of support area was tricky, and then having to cross the river.
Yeah. But like running with like, because it was about knee height, wasn't it?
Yeah, I reckon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was pretty wide. Like it wasn't just like a couple of hops in the
Yeah, it was
water.
like-
it was
No, it
walking
was-
through
yeah,
water.
40
a lot,
metres
like,
wide.
Yeah.
Imagine when it's flowing. Like,
Yeah.
imagine when, like
Yeah.
I've seen footage of it flowing, and
it looks dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you see people
Imagine
that
in
have
the
like,
rain and the wind and the
dude.
darkness. We got real lucky.
well, like that's the other thing that like I kind of wanted to get to too. Like the week before, we were getting notifications. We touched on this
Yeah.
in one of the other podcasts. That was like, if you're planning to do this track, please alert the police and
Yeah,
let
yeah.
them know because there's bad
It was
weather.
snowing
and
till
this-
like 700
Like,
meters.
like
We did
rethink
that. You're
rethink
like,
your
"Yeah, what?"
plans.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no worries.
This guy's got the satellite phone sorted. It's all sorted.
Yeah, what?
Yeah, huh?
But-
oh, yeah,
but-
you got jumpers? Yeah, okay. Thanks for the call.
But all of that did play into
It did.
like
Yeah.
thinking about him in that first thing. I'm thinking,
Yeah.
fuck, you know, like what happens if we can't get through? What's the workaround?
Yeah.
Do we get a big fucking rope and tie one to one side and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
what do you do? Anyway,
Yeah.
for it to be like kind of seamless outside of, you know, up to your knee was a bit
Yeah.
of a
Getting a bit wet.
Anticlimax.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it was a good thing, right?
Well, it's even, you know, small things like if it is flowing real fast, that would have been a different story. But, you know, like when you're going through rocky water like that, you can easily slip and
Yeah.
sprain an ankle. And I was able to, I mean, the shoes were pretty sweet getting through there, keeping stable, no issue. It worked out sweet.
Lucky you had a backup pair too, so you could try.
Yeah, that kind of helped a little.
Yeah.
Having a nice dry pair of shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
How good was
and-
that?
and
Having a
socks.
couple of sets.
Yeah,
Although
yeah.
I didn't need, I only needed one, but you guys having
Yeah.
two sets
That
was the one.
same.
Yeah.
Only needed one.
The other joy was like, again, the moment of reveal who got the leg after Jesse.
Yeah, well, that
And
was
then see this guy's face go.
because
Crawl back behind
that
that.
was when the moment really hit. Yeah.
Because then it was, okay, well now you're doing 50 with an 8-hour break in between, or you're doing 100, suck shit.
Yeah.
You know, which is like,
Yeah.
there's no breaks.
Yeah.
And that wasn't in the plan. Like I didn't
Yeah.
plan for that. That wasn't.
So you found the first 50 challenging, hard,
I
easy?
reckon the first 50 was just brilliant.
Yeah, well.
Like, you know, I wouldn't say easy, but 50's never easy. But, you know, in terms of the trail itself, it kind of ticked all of the right boxes. It was mostly, you know, in the bush, going through river. Like, there was a bit of elevation, but nothing too hard. And, like, it wasn't that technical as well. It was just, like, beautiful trail and picturesque. And, you know, I started middle of the day. It was, I felt pretty privileged to have gotten that leg.
And
And
you
even-
had a good time. Like you
I did,
You
yeah.
and yourself
Yeah.
had a
good- good
an unreal day. You had
Yeah,
a lot
exactly.
of fun. Really
I
enjoyed it.
I remember going through a couple of flat spots, but that was just like flat energy spots where it was
Yeah.
like, all right, I'll push through and I'll be all right. But I do remember just being like, I've really lucked out on this one. And then I was doing the first leg and I was trying to do the math about, you know, the potential time that it would take for the next couple of guys, or the next 3, 4, until I did mine, my second. And I was like, I reckon I might luck out with my second one as
Threaded
well.
the needle, you've
and,
got a good
and
one.
get
Yeah.
another middle of the day beautiful
Yeah.
one. But that it didn't turn
little
that
did
way.
you
But you had
But
a
that
bit of
first
a-
one was wonderful, yeah.
And the end of that first leg, did really set you up for your night leg because you got about 3 hours. You went through dusk, and because that first leg for you didn't finish till about 8 o'clock, wasn't it? Or
Yeah.
yeah,
I think it was
7:30,
that.
7:45. So you had it get cold, you had it get
taste of
dark,
it.
you had
Yeah.
dusk, and you had a couple of hours sort of in the night, which
Yeah.
is probably good prep mentally for a big night that you had later on.
Yeah, 100%.
And I remember him coming down the hill. Remember where we were going? We're at the campsite, and we're waiting, to do the transition with you. We'd sort of woken you up to come out and get out the front. And I remember seeing the headlight come down the hill there, and I was like, "All right, bang!" Like that's the second one down, right?
Yeah.
I remember just
Bit of an inertia
it's
now,
like okay,
starting
so
to
now
build.
we're on the 3, and we've done a whole pod on your story, and that was an epic adventure into Nappers. And then he had a whole thing, the massive climb, and coming up to Arthur's Lake there, where we had that great experience of people donating money to us and all those sorts of things. And then it sort of comes to this moment where it's obviously evident at that point that Steele's going to do the 100, right?
Yeah.
So and I'm getting some acid from Tara. Like, she's messaging me going, "You can't do that to him. That's not fair." And I'm like,
Yeah, I heard about
I
this.
didn't choose, like,
It was the gods.
the trail
The
gods
trail gods.
chose this. Like, I can't do anything about it. But she's given it to me. Like, come on, everyone else
You're
gets
like,
a thing. What has he
You
done?
knew the plan. The plan was not to have a
He signed
plan.
up. He knew
This
what
is
was
what we had.
Anyway, so
You're breaking up.
Yeah, we're in the middle of Tassie, sorry. But there was a moment not too dissimilar to what you described about him in his moment that I got to see for you, and where it was like, okay, I've accepted this. There was
We're
a
doing
minute
it.
of like, okay, shit, but okay, we're
Yeah.
gonna do
Yeah.
this. And something that you said it still rings for me. That's one of the things I probably remember, which is like, this is the best opportunity ever to do my first 100.
Oh,
Yeah.
hands
Yeah.
down,
Yeah,
without
yeah,
a doubt.
yeah.
What other environment?
And you couldn't pay for this experience.
Can you believe you're saying that though?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
and you think about your running journey.
Yeah.
To then be at that point, like you're about to enter or start this thing. Like, what's in your head? Like, what do you like? Obviously, you're a bit juicy, bit
Yeah.
scared, bit whatever. Where you
A
at?
little bit scared, a little bit so, and same thing. Don't want to let the team down. I think like, we've got a good group of a little bit self-sacrificing guys, which has its pros and cons. But for the most part, we just didn't want to let the team down. I was certainly that, which is probably the first night in the hotel. Like, I want to get better. We'll come back like
Steely.
because I don't want to let the team down, right? But then so there, I'm standing there, I'm like, but now it was just acceptance that like
come back.
Oh, yeah.
I want to address that before the end of the day. But just didn't want to let the team down. But yeah, there was an acceptance. It was like I said, literally inspirational watching you just go, okay, we're doing this. We're at work now. Let's go do it. And I just decided, okay, we're going to do it. But also, you can't pay money to run 100 like that. It was on the what do they call that? The Central Plateau in Tassie. So it's all these lakes above sea level. And my 100 went right. I went back there and had a look. It's the best part of Tassie too. It's the best part
It was
to run it.
beautiful.
It's the middle. It's
Spectacular.
literally the center of our run. And it was 2 legs just through the most beautiful part of the most beautiful state on the beautiful side of the planet with 5 blokes just helping me. It was So I was like, I don't want to fuck this up. I want to support the team, but also like I'm very lucky to be able to do this.
Were you nervous about doing 100? Like, as in, were you
Yeah,
nervous
I'd never run.
Yeah,
of course.
yeah.
A good, the appropriate amount of nerves, and then so just I'm a big thinker, and so just trying to just every time the thought came in that you might let people down or you might look like a bit of a dickhead if this goes wrong, just reframing it as like, you've done some training, just go do it. Just shut up and go. Just go do the thing. It's there. Go do it. You never get this opportunity again. Just go do it.
I don't know if this helped either, but like I was thinking when we were reflecting about the kind of end of my run, that last kind of 10K when things got dark, and I was thinking how what really helped was it got to that point that you were talking about. You guys came around. It was on the road. It was quite dark, and I just remember being in a bit of struggle town at that point, but it was kind of like you guys came in, you were like, put on the high vis, get this stuff sorted. We're going to like follow along, just make sure the road's safe. And I think, I I remember being a little bit annoyed about the high vis. I'm like, I don't need the bloody high vis, do I? But now that I think about it, I'm like, these guys cared, and these guys were here looking out for me. And it's kind of like, even if I was in Struggle Town, I got all of these people around looking out for me. And so, I don't know if that helped to ease into that transition too of being like, we've got people around to get you through that 100. And I mean, it's easier to say when that's in the moment. You're the one where the support's coming to. When you're having to think about doing it in future, might be a little bit different, but definitely a part of it.
What blew my mind was your beautiful wife, Rach, who we'd never actually met until the after party, which we'll get to later. But she didn't realise what you were doing.
Yeah, I don't think she got
So we were going to Tassie for a whole week.
Yeah.
Old mate
So
here.
you're having a boys' week in Tassie.
Yeah, you got a bit of a hit of golf.
Yeah.
But
Oh no, I think
Stay in the
go
ridges
for
for
a
the
run.
minute.
Like they're doing their
penny
marathon or
drops.
something, you know.
The penny dropped when you were rewatching the Blood Run. And Rach, you were telling us that Rach was watching it, and she's like, "That's just like,
Yeah,
that's
like
so hectic.
it's
Those
a big
trails,
thing.
that's the big thing.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
massive."
yeah.
And you're like, "That's what I'm doing
That's what I'm
next
gonna
week."
go do.
So,
But it is hard to a non-runner. It's hard to kind of even talk about the scale. Like, and it doesn't even sound believable. Like I was telling some guys at work recently, and he's like a runner. You know, he's run like a half marathon or something, and he was like, "So, well, did you end up doing that run?" I was like, "Yeah, I ended up actually doing 100K," and he kind of went, "Oh yeah, sure." Like sure, sure,
Is that Ash again?
Yeah.
If you're listening, Ash, probably not. But if you are, fuck you, Ash.
You've been a big
No, but thank you, because if it wasn't for you,
yeah, we are.
we wouldn't have Steely.
But you know, the scale of it is like to someone that doesn't really run. You don't really know that it's a huge.
Well,
thing.
Well, unless
agree.
you've been there, you
Big
don't
dog.
know, do
It's a
you?
big dog
Like,
move.
you need to do this to know what it's all about.
You know when we talked to
And-
Pat Farmer,
Yeah.
and we were talking about him running from the top of the world to
Yeah.
the bottom,
Yeah.
and it's like, you say that, but like actually think about
Oh,
those words.
It's like
And
trying
you
to
can't
understand the
comprehend
size of
How
the
big is the sun and all
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
So, and I'm not comparing like what we do to Pat Farmer. He's
No.
on another level. But 85K a day for 10 and a half
Yeah,
months.
it's, I just
But my point in that is you can't comprehend it.
Yeah.
Right? And so for people that don't run at all,
Yeah.
100 is like, or 50 is
Yeah.
like this outrageous thing that
some
and then
people
particularly-
5 in a marathon is the same. You know,
Yeah.
like 5Ks in a marathon, it's the same thing. Like you
Yeah.
run marathons, you're a marathon runner.
Yeah.
But 100 in Tassie at night is a different thing.
I'd love your point about being a thinker, Steely, and there's so many examples of that. But one hilarious one that I always come back to is prepping for the start of your 100. It was the middle of the day or sort of early arvo, and we'll set up down on this lake, like in a driveway, waiting for nappers to come in, as where the checkpoint was going to be. And it was hot, right? Like our weather was incredible. And I don't know if it was part of the nerves or just part of kind of where you're at with a bit of sickness and whatnot. But you were massively concerned that you weren't going to be warm enough. And you rugged up to the hill. So you so like I remember clearly Steely's going out, like I might be exaggerating, I don't know if the gloves were on, but it was like buff, neck warmer,
Shirt,
singlet,
top,
shirt,
the double jacket,
top, another jacket over the top, full pack.
Like I'm running 100. I'll see you
running
guys tomorrow.
100. I'm like, and so we're like, mate, it's all good. Just pack it, or we'll crew you, and we'll get it if you're cold and whatnot. And
No,
you're like,
I need 4 litres.
It's
I'll
not
see you
100
guys
where you
tomorrow.
don't have any
went off
support.
like a Sherpa with every bit of clothing that you bought to Tassie
It's
on.
like 20
right?
degrees.
I'm surprised that Patagonia, that white sheep fluff that you got wasn't on as well. But you had everything on, and Steely sets off down the track. And we followed because we were sort of setting up at a, like a truck stop or whatnot, sort of 5Ks down the road. 2Ks, we passed you.
Yeah.
You're in a singlet. No hat.
700
nothing on,
metres.
sweating, going, I'm so hot.
I went to a dark spot, like 700 metres down the road. I'm sitting right
water.
dark. Packs off.
Someone
Everything.
sent gels.
The whole plan is like I had everything,
Yeah.
carbs here, everything was planned. And I'm sitting on the side of the road, 700 metres, just around the corner from you guys.
Such a good exercise for you do all the thinking in the world, But the reality is, for all the thinking in the world, any event like that, the bottom line is you just have to go and do it.
Go do.
Right? You just go and do it. And the notion of, I don't know if I can do this, I don't know if I can achieve it, how hard's it going to be? Half the time the switch flick is, I'm just going to go to work, right? This will take as long as it takes, and I'll work through it, and I'll get it done.
Okay.
And all the little things will problem solve. And the starting is the hardest bit. Like 90% of the time, the lead up to a start is the most challenging. You get into a rhythm and a groove, and you pull the jackets off and end up in a singlet going, it's not that cold, I'm not going to freeze to death. And all the things drop in. And that was like the analogy for your whole run. It just, from that point forward, you just sailed. Like everything was
Things will happen, but
you settled
you'll be okay
into a rhythm, and we just problem solved very minor things which are expected over 100 Ks in the bush with, nav and night and cold and all those bits and pieces. But it was just like once the start happened and you settled, you just sailed for the whole thing.
Like you say, I think the switch flicked, and it's kind of like, it's as if, in those moments you take the choice out of it. There's no choice, like, am I going to do this or not? You started, and you're like, I'm doing it. Like, there is no other option here. And you just embodied that beautifully. It was just like, I'm on.
Yeah. He said to me, and it was fair, I don't know if you remember this, but up until, so you're the last of the first 5, to run, right? Everyone had a pretty good run up until that point. I felt like I had a great day
good.
out. You started a bit tough, but once you flicked, you had a great session. You had a great session, really good, bit of dark, but it was fine.
Yeah.
Nappers loved his section, and so there was a bit like, fuck, am I going to have that same energy, or is it going to blow up? And I remember seeing you after, so let's go, fast forward, after the first 50. He's done 50. Yeah. And you'll remember this when we're saying, mate, normally you'd be done, but you got to go back out into the night and go again.
Oh, you just reminded him, did you? Good on you.
No, but he's there, right?
Yeah.
And
of course we reminded him. He woke us up. Like, come on.
It was hard not to.
I was pissed off about it. That was 20 minutes of 3 hours I got all week. But we were saying that to give him some juice, going, mate, you feel like this, you're going good. Everyone normally is pulling the pin.
Yeah.
You're going again, right? And I remember you were the whole time thankful.
Yeah.
Do you remember? He was always like, thanks for doing this, thanks for being out here, thanks for whatever. And it was cool to hear you say before that people are messaging you and you're getting contact from home. Because I think that's a whole nother energy that comes in.
Yeah.
The bit I want to pick up on is, I'm pretty sure it was the first, maybe a second 50 where you turn your headlight off. And you were running under the stars.
The wind, there was
no
joking? Wind. Yeah, this one's you can't. I don't think money can buy that experience. There was no wind, so you just in Tassie, when there was a bit of wind, right, and all the wallabies were out on the road because the wallabies were all skittish when there's wind, but when there's no wind, the wallabies.
I hadn't noticed.
I didn't see a wallaby. I think I saw maybe 1 or 2 wallabies. On your run, we saw 100 in that first 10. And because they were all asleep.
Yeah.
Because they weren't skittish. The whole
Is that
bush
because of the car?
was calm.
Or,
There's a few of them sleep. But they were all, everything, the bush was calm.
Yeah.
The animals were asleep. That's how calm it was. And so it was just me under the moon and the crunch of my shoes, my Hero 8s. Just under the moon, I only used one headlamp. I had 4 nights. 4 nights. I had 4 hours of torch.
This is, I think, around the point that I wanted to pick up on was talking about the thinker vibe, but also I remember there was a story about spirituality at around this point, I think, and something to do with connecting with some of the animals. Maybe you were going through both a dark spot. Literally and figuratively.
At that 70, with the cows, there was around it, I think it was about 70 or 80 when my body had just shit out. And because there wasn't a plan after it. I heard from you, you go to 80 and then everything else is just a dogfight and just figure it out. And it hit that point. So maybe it was 75 and there was that complete, I've been chasing this when you just get rid of all the thoughts and you... it's just an instant connection to what you want, to your beliefs and your body. So what that looks like is like, as I'm running, as a negative thought comes in, you're so fatigued, you haven't slept. As a thought comes in, and if it's a negative thought, you just start walking and you don't even notice it. Like I kind of catch myself, I've been walking for the last 3 minutes because I've been doubting. So you have to change the thought and then your body can move again. It's just an instant connection. There's all the other bullshit, all the other thoughts, all the mortgage, that fucking frenemy, that skirmish you've got with that person at work, all of it just fades away. And it's just a spinal cord and some nerves just running with some memories. And so the negative thing comes in and you start walking. And so there's something else deeper back there that you just have to reframe and change the thoughts. And then so this idea was like, just keep telling yourself that you've trained and you're okay and you're okay and everything's fine and you're trained. And so I was like, actually had to say it out loud a couple of times. I know this probably sounds lame to someone that's done like 100 Ks a lot, but it's a big deal for me. I actually had to say it out loud, like, you're okay, you've trained. And it was it. There was like, I happened to be in a field with a whole bunch of cows and there's no lights, right? It's just the moon. You put your head torch on and so you just all see all these faces of cows, just like these white kind of faces. And you're just talking to these cows like, you're okay, you've trained, you're okay. And you have to say it out loud to keep going.
It was bizarre in some of those sections how, particularly at night, you didn't realise some of the areas that you were running through, and when you were running without a torch, and I did a fair bit of that as well, I didn't choose to turn my torch off. I got to a point where it went flat, but as it went flat, it got dimmer and dimmer and dimmer, and my eyes had adjusted to what I was seeing, and then it switched off, and I thought I'll just leave it for a while. I had another one in my pack, and I did a while without it as well. It was that... you couldn't figure out where you were, what type of terrain you were on. You knew you were on a trail somewhere, but it wasn't until you do something like that, flick a light on, and you knew that there was stuff around and go, I'm in a paddock, I'm in the middle of a property,
or there's a lake,
I
found myself just in a lake up to my ankles. I'm like,
I don't know.
Just through a bush. I'm in a lake. I'm not supposed to be here.
The irony of the, like I felt like I was disappointed in a way around the night stuff, and I've talked about this. I was like, came all the way down here to see this phenomenal trail. It's pitch black, and all I can see is 10 million animals and this box of light,
red eyes.
But it gave a totally different perspective to seeing it that I didn't anticipate. And that night stuff was like super powerful, like really, really cool experience.
Because it's just you and whatever's there for like 9 hours. Yeah. Just crunch.
And interestingly, the running side of it, and it's the same thing that happens whenever you run at night. But I realised early on in that first leg, you'd be, running up a hill, not realising that you're running up a hill. Feeling gassed. Why am I so gassed? This is ridiculous. And then you adjust your field of view, and it's like, I'm running up. I'm running up a hill. That's why. Maybe time to slow down.
You're not a friend of mine running up a hill.
Or you're scooting, and then then you realise I've been running downhill for the last 10 Ks. I've just been.
The bit I want to come to now is like the bit where we were waiting in the car for a while as the sun was starting to come up.
Yeah.
And you've probably gone a little longer through this section than we thought. And we were starting to get, not concerned, but we're like, you'd got lost a little bit in some spots, and we were a bit like, fuck, where is he? And
your timings have been so
Well, Mitch and I had also hiked up the trail a little bit, and we're like, where is he?
Been clockwork until then.
You had
and no reception at that point. And so Mitch and Jess took up the trail to go and find him, right? But even then, that took a while.
Yeah.
And so
we were like, the sun's coming out, and you're still not coming around. Is everything
so
okay?
We're starting
How
to
much further do we go?
Just a little bit, right? But obviously then we caught you and we refueled and whatever. And from that section there, pretty much to the end for you, I'm going to describe from my perspective, and from yours it would have been on another level because of how you were feeling. But it was a stunning day. And we're driving through these fields.
And stunning coming out of that was just magical.
And I'm out of the bush, and you're in this topography opens up.
And then you're ready, like you're going, I've got 10K or 8K to go. So your energy's back.
Knees up,
and you're like, I'm going to get this motherfucker done. And we're all hooting and hollering and like hanging out of cars as we go past him, whatever. And I think Cords jumped in for a run with you. You had a pretty cool experience that last bit, which
Actually, we haven't had a chat about that dark spot. I think it was around the 80k where I got lost, and it was pretty grim for a bit. And yeah, there was no. I didn't have any reception.
Talk about why. Because we were running off a GPX file because we hadn't run any of these sections of trail before.
Yeah.
And at night it was it's the Tassie Trail is
It's not marked.
It's not marked. There are
There's
signs.
some.
Every now and then.
Mostly people do the Tassie Trail during the day. People aren't doing it at night.
And the other key element is that the Tassie Trail that we did is designed for people traversing on foot. And it varies a lot from a lot of the traditional signposted directions because there's like a bike track that sort of cuts through roads and
like
takes
horse
like
trails,
a B trail,
yeah.
and the foot track takes a lot of difference. So we're relying on a GPX file, which was great until
Well, what was apparent is I think the GPX file was created by someone that had been there maybe a year before, and there subsequently was a fire, and then there was this thick growth that was probably about 9 foot high that had come up in that year, and so there was a few times where I'm on a relatively open trail and the GPX file saying go through that wall of bush, for a few kilometers, right?
and then obeyed. You're like,
looking at the trail and the head torch, I can see it going, and I'm like, all right, into the bush, and and for a couple of hours just kind of cutting through the bush. And I think maybe in retrospect, maybe it was because that led to a nice big outlook, and if you're running it during the day, you can probably see a kilometre or two that way, and you can see there might be like a ledge or something you can look out over the farm. But at night, all you can see is trees, right? And then it got to a point where I was I think I was a couple of k's in and it was just, you could only just describe it as just thick. It was jungle. It felt like jungle, and you're just
And just like this navigation of it.
Yeah, I got some
Do
video.
you remember seeing that video? I'm like, fuck,
jungle.
where is he?
And it's on a down, and this was one of the parts where I just wound up in a lake. And you're walking, and then I'm like, and I'm knee deep in a lake, and then it opens up. I'm like, I'm in a fucking lake. This isn't a trap. So I've got to traverse back through that for a couple of k's.
And when you say that difference between night and day, and just that ability to be able to see where you're going, if you're stuck in somewhere that you're lost,
Still there.
it's
It's
exactly.
still that,
It's head torch. So when the sun came up, I realised I'm going to be okay. I can see when it takes me off the track. I'm not gonna and I was doing 50-minute Ks because it's just and then when the sun started coming up and I saw that when it would take me that way, I could see
where it ends up
3 Ks down there. I can kind of go that was when I felt like the sun was fantastic, and there was this darkness and this ambiguity and this scariness in the dark. But then when the sun came up, the stillness of everything shifted from the stillness wasn't eerie anymore. The stillness was serene, and I could just dawn running, and I know I'm going to finish. I know I'm not going to let everyone down, and I know that I'm going to survive. But I was banged up. I was in a grim spot. There was one spot where I kind of came to a cliff edge, and it was only probably 3 or 4 meter drop. And I was like, I might just sit down and wait till the sun comes up. It's an hour and a half away. It's nope, don't sit down. Just go back up. Sit, get high. Find a way to get some reception. Have a look at the map differently. And that was. Yeah, it was pretty grim. But then getting out of it and the sun came up and it was we're going to finish. We're going to finish. I just did 100.
With there was some sheep or something.
Yeah, right at the end.
You and Cords had this, mate. And you came in absolutely frothing over that. I don't know if you guys remember that, but he was hard as a rock for it. But tell us about
Cord's got some good video. I
remember seeing that on the tiny little screen being that's bloody
awesome. So we'd kind of come out of the bush and we're in, the topography was just had these kind of undulating hills that were quite high and all around, and everything was a little bit browner. I remember it was green all night, and that's kind of transitioned into kind of brown and oranges, and you can stretch your eyes a bit because the hills were probably a kilometre or so apart, so you can kind of stretch your eyes. And then there was a farmer mustering some sheep, probably a couple of hundred, maybe 1,000 sheep on the trail that we were going on. And so we kind of stepped to the side of the trail, walked up the hill and kind of planted on the side of the hill. And then the farmer kind of sent the sheep up our way. I don't know what. Yeah. And so we're just standing there and we've just got thousands of sheep just running around us. Just this moment of I'm just about to finish my first 100. I'm in Tassie. I didn't fuck up. I didn't die. My mates are here, and I'm out in the sun's up. There's a creamy Oaks like 3Ks that way, and a warm bed, and there's just all these sheep. It's just the most picturesque.
You're getting all the feels.
Getting all the feels.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we had that
can't
same
buy feels.
We were feeling good for you. So everyone was on this high energy that you about to finish this thing. I remember looking at nappers. And nappers is then taking on
couple
from
of couple of photos of nappers that depict exactly.
The poor bloke, he's done 50. I don't know what's worse, to be honest. Like running 100 in one hit or running 50, having a break.
Yeah.
And running 50
I reckon that's worse.
There's in some levels, I think it could be hard, like as hard, right?
Yeah.
But his face was like he was like whatever. And so you've come down the road and then into the little showground sort of area
where you guys are parked up,
which was super cool. We're all there, the drone's there, we're having this experience, and you've run in and the energy's high, right? And then Nappers is like, he's pumped for you, and he's like, and then he's just standing there like,
Righto.
I've got 50k to go. Like,
Here we go.
50k is not. It's a kick in the nuts. 50k is a long way to run.
Yeah, it's not little.
and he didn't really sleep that night. Like he had a few hours, but not much.
We thought I was probably going to finish 5 hours earlier as well because that hill
Yeah.
hanged me up pretty bad.
And that's a big deal. It's not like you can just sleep and then get woken up like, righto, you got 10 minutes to go. Like you're on alert.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
you're ready to go.
Yeah.
And when you're predicting and trying to predict times, the second that mentally you're like, oh, this could happen soon, there's no rest happening after that. It's
you
like,
don't
exactly.
sleep deep.
Yeah.
That's
properly,
right. You're lying there, thinking about it.
And you get there and there's an iconic picture that is in the group
Yeah.
of you having a nice bogues there and at 8 o'clock in the morning or something. It's not too different today. But like everyone remembers their first 100, and I'm envious of your first 100 experience or memory because I think
it was a good one.
doing it as mates where it's not, there's no cut-offs, there's no like if it had taken
by
you,
New Balance. Like all my shit was like all my training.
sponsored athletes, bro.
Yeah.
But that is a great memory. We've all done runs that you kind of don't really like. You remember, but you don't really. The first one is always the one you remember. But what a great experience!
I feel like it's like
Thanks, boys. Thank
the
you.
individual
Appreciate it.
remembers their first 100. Most people don't remember your mate's first 100. You might have a vague idea about
that's
it.
true.
But I think we all remember Steely's first 100.
yeah.
As if it was, we were part of it. So, yeah.
It's so we roll on from there. Nappers hits his and sort of goes on with it. We then start to, come to the last.
Well,
Yeah,
the thing is, I don't remember. I lost a bit of humility around that stage. I'm like, I've just done 100. I'm sick, and then I wasn't even.
I'm sick.
And I wasn't even really looking at nappers, but I saw you and thought about like that you were probably going to run at night, that next one, and like. Because I got banked, and the plan wasn't like in my mind when we started. It was like it's probably you've done the maths, and it's probably going to go okay. But I looked at you and like you were in it a bit. That you were getting ready to flip the switch as well.
Totally.
It was because Lou was. I was in contact with Lou.
Yeah.
Which is Jesse's wife, and she was concerned for you generally. Over the trip, but particularly around our night section.
Yeah.
And I know that was probably weighing on you, and so the timings that we were starting to peel through was like, oh, maybe he won't. Oh, maybe he will.
Yeah.
Oh, he's
Definitely going to.
Yeah.
And so what was
it's all
Starting at night.
That's right.
I think what's going through your head as you start that moment where you're like, okay, it's going to be probably the thing I really don't want to do. Like, I really don't want to do this. What are you thinking at that point?
Well, that transition that you talked about is exactly what happened. I remember talking to Mitch and maybe you guys at the beginning as well, saying the thing I was most anxious about for this run was doing an overnight league. And, it was just the unexpectedness that can come with overnight.
Yeah.
And knowing that, it's going to be in the wilderness and areas we haven't been before, and you just don't know what is going to happen. And I'd said earlier how after my first leg, I'd been doing the rough timing, and I was kind of like, I think this is actually going to work out all right. And then, like, Steely's, took a bit longer than we thought it might. And still at that point when Steely had finished, I still thought, oh, well, there's going to be a bit of overnight, but maybe I might be all right. But I reckon it was like the first checkpoint for Nappers, where he was struggling a bit with his knee, and I was like, yeah, no, this is taking a bit longer than
have to make
we
a different
think.
preparation.
It's going to be a bit different. And as the day went on, it became really clear that it was going to be overnight. And like I think, I was just trying to get sleep in, because one of the things I was most worried about is since my accident, where I guess for the podcast, I had a pretty serious bike accident 3 years ago now, a bit over 3 years ago, and had a TBI as part of that, so a concussion, and sleep had been a really important part of recovery, and like post accident, I'd never gone overnight without sleeping, and it had been a big part of my routine, and so I was just like, I've gone before the accident not sleeping, but I don't know how this is going to pan out. And I've done some big runs before, like I did my first 50 a year ago, and I remember getting to a point. I'd started in the morning, but in the mid-afternoon I was tired, I was buggered, I needed to actually close my eyes on the side of the road. And I'm like, what's going to happen if I run overnight? So just trying to get in as much sleep as I could. And I just remember a couple of hours out of starting as well, Cords comes up to me and he's like, it's going to be a bit of a change of plans. We didn't realise that the campsite was actually so far away. So turns out, look, there's a few different options, but possibly one of the options we'll need to consider is that we won't be able to see you for the first 25. And on the one hand, that was kind of fine. It's like I've run 25 on my own before without support crew. But at the same time, it's, that combination of factors where it's like, all right, I'm going into night shift.
Yep.
And I haven't had great sleep the last couple of nights, as we all have.
You ran 50 Ks yesterday.
Yeah.
So you've already
Don't know the trail.
Don't know the trail. I know that second trail had a fair degree of elevation as well. It was going to be, pretty uphill. And I was starting to be like, I don't know. And I remember sitting in the car, I was doing some breath work stuff, because I was like, this is going to probably help with some of those nerves and anxiety, but also just, for my fitness. But I think it was, directly related to that fear of the unknown and just how is this going to pan out? There's some shit that could go down. There was literally some shit that went down. But we can get into that.
That was a concern. And look, the unsung hero of all of this was Cords.
Oh, 100%,
And we've given him his flowers in previous podcasts, but he's definitely worth a mention. He was outstanding on the trip, as were others.
Talk about self-sacrifice. The guy didn't really sleep for the whole thing.
No.
He had his own epic mission, ultra of a different sort.
And so, but my point is, when he shared that with you, he would have gone through a million other scenarios to try and go, alongside you.
We did. He was like, here's three different scenarios
we
we
can
can weigh up.
And spot, right?
Yeah.
That's what it was. And so, even getting the hired Nissan Patrol up that fucking mountain, and some of it was fucking sketchy.
We can talk about how hard we thrashed that now, right? The deposits come back. We
got
have
the
back.
deposit.
I'll get the real footage out.
If you hire a Nissan Patrol in Tassie,
Yeah.
or happen to buy a second-hand one,
We're sorry.
there might be a bloody mission sticker on the front of it. Just don't buy it.
So I was down
Why?
there.
Because it was sick. It did the job.
I was down there. I was down there 3-4 weeks after. And it was there when I picked up my car from the airport. I wandered past and
Good dog.
Gave it a little run.
Good boy.
My old friend.
Wagging his tail.
He quivered a little bit.
But on that track on the way up, we thought we could potentially go up and over to the campsite, which would have...
And you can. It was just impassable at the time
with all the water that they'd had the week before up on the mountain.
Yeah.
So regardless, we had to dump a bunch of water and stuff for Jesse, and then we weren't going to see him until the end. At that point, but also Ali Brown had come and randomly, and we talked about Ali in other podcasts, but he'd turned up and sort of helped Jesse.
Talk about a glue guy.
Well, there's this,
Ali
glue
Brown
guy,
just
yeah.
rocked up with Maccas.
Yeah.
Well, there's this, it just sticks me with this beautiful story that fits with what we were talking about earlier in terms of, like, you know, being there to support others. And, like, I've gone into this leg, you know, in the kind of most feared scenario. And just out of it, you know, just as Nappers was finishing, we're a couple of K from where he finishes and I was going to take off. And we're parked on the side of the road and we're in the middle of this, you know, farmland. We'd heard some stories about shit going down. And this car comes up. We don't know anything about what's going on, but this car comes up to us.
Can we do a bit of background on the story that you'd heard? Like, so he's shitting his pants and Nappers came straight in telling this story about, what was it, like a farmer had a gun?
Yeah.
I was asleep on some bags at this stage, so I wasn't part of it, but
Yeah.
wasn't Nappers like he was like...
He's like, we've been tracking you for 10K or something.
Yeah.
And,
So
this section of trail went through a whole bunch of private property, and there was some property owners that were, you know, to your point from before, Steely, like most people do the Tassie Trail on bikes during the day.
Yeah, and then they sleep.
And it's sort of, you know, you expect to see people kind of cruising through your paddock with a bike in a pack of 3 or 4, but what these, you know, property owners could see was a head torch cruising through their property, and then when they, you know, there was property owners that were sort of bouncing him through their properties and talking on the phone about this head torch that's coming through their property, and so he got fronted by a property owner who said, "What?"
just didn't
I love his response.
That was response. I'd be a pretty shit thief.
Pretty
Yeah. Hi, beers, head torch.
Everything on him was reflective. But it was, to your point, Jesse, it was, you know, there's people out and about. We're not just running.
And we're in the
not
middle
running
of
a pre-determined
Tassie where-
event.
It's all unknown, right?
Yeah.
It's all
Yeah.
So that's like you've got 99 problems.
Yeah.
Now you've got a farmer with a
Yeah,
shotgun.
yeah. with a gun.
Yeah,
You know,
that's right.
like that, and then they're just stressing
Yeah.
about that. So that just sets the picture for how dope Ali Brown is in his
Oh,
entrance.
yeah.
Sorry to...
But the context for that was the setup was just brilliant because it was kind of like as Ali came in, we didn't know it was Ali. There was this car that had just come in. It was sort of revving a bit. It was like getting a bit uppity, and so some of the words I can't remember if it was you went around to go check and try and have some gentle words with the uppity neighbour, and then we were like, this is bloody Ali Brown. He's got bags of Maccas and Guinness and so like at this stage I still thought I was doing the first 25 solo, and so you know Nappers is finished up and it was kind of really nice seeing Ali, and I've taken off and I'm just like, all right, got to get it done, flick the switch. I'm like doing this, you know, there's no other choice. And then about a K down the road, sounds like you guys must have had a bit of a conversation with Ali, and people have come past and they're like, turns out Ali's going to hang with you for that first 25 and he'll just check in and make sure that things are right.
Yeah.
Never met the
Blue
bloke before.
guy.
Never
Just
met him
rocked up.
previously. And just
It was like, it was
absolute
at
legend.
night. This guy, like
Yeah.
in Tasmania, he doesn't live in Tasmania.
He'd kind of abandoned
He's
his
arrived.
family.
He flew
for
in.
this.
He flew in.
Yeah.
In Steely's words,
It
he's a stud.
Yeah,
He's a
yeah,
stud.
Big time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it
so
was-
I think that was such a huge buck up. It was just, you know, going into that point, the very start of my run, I was like, oh, this is pretty shit. And then suddenly it's just like, boom, you got people there for you.
Positive.
Like
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
the trail gods the whole way.
The whole way.
They wanted
Yeah.
us. They wanted us
Yeah.
to do it.
And even in that, like even the logistical challenge around getting up over the top of that climb, we didn't know how far we were going to, and we knew this in advance, and we talked about this well
White
and truly.
Timber Mountain.
There was 2 sections,
Yeah,
and
that's
one
the
of them
one.
was Combi and one of them was White Timber Mountain, where we really weren't sure what the access was going to be like to support, and so there was always the chance that we were going to have someone uncovered for a little while in those sections, and that was just something that a risk we had to take. But hopefully we'd be able to get around
Just
it.
happened to be the guy that had a
Yeah,
traumatic brain injury
that's
3
right.
years prior.
And so the problem solving in and around that was like it was ongoing, and it started long before that leg. It was like you talked about, Jesse. We'd had conversations about this for a long time. What can we do? How can we get around it? What are the options? Can we move? We're going to move the base truck and get it up the other side and sort of get to the top and send people down on foot. There was a whole range of things. But the timings worked out exquisitely thanks to a combination of having Ali around and being able to hustle hard enough to get up the top, overshoot you, get some gear stashed in the bush, check you a couple of times. We probably checked you 3 or 4 times in that first half, which was more than we were originally going to, which allowed us the 2.5 hours it took to go all the way back down, around, back through Hobart, and then sort of climb back up the other side.
Like it really was a long way.
But it really was.
And I remember, like you guys were, you and Cords were incredible that night, and I was kind of a bit under pressure because I'm now running after Jesse, so I'm trying to like sleep in the car. But these guys, like, we don't drink Red Bull. Like our lads we don't drink it. But I wake up, like, and Dan's driving, and they're like drinking Red Bulls, and at that point I remember thinking in my head like, fuck, shit's getting real now. Like, we don't drink that stuff, right? We drink this stuff.
Where's the bag of Coke as well?
Yeah. So, but we, there was also time pressure because we had to get back, do a bunch of shit, and then get back up the mountain, which wasn't straightforward either. Like there was, it was a whole nother thing to get up the other side to meet you at the checkpoint where we flicked over. So there's a lot happening on no sleep. Half a can of Red Bull. Stressing about you and the potential of overnight and what that could potentially bring. And so I'm going to take us to the moment there. Now we're parked waiting for him. Right, so we've sort of touched base with him overnight in certain spots, and he's going okay, right? And we're waiting there, and Cords was pretty keen to run. Like he didn't get to run much.
I feel that's a whole other story. Getting ready for a run like that and then not doing it. I got to run with him for that 10Ks or so, and he was just like a bat, just ready to go. He was just
he wanted to take off. And I remember he got some music on his phone and ran up the trail. I'm pretty sure it was the presets because that was a song that you were juicy for. And we were waiting, and I'm getting ready to do my thing, and you're having a couple of Z's in the car because you probably deserved that already. But as we're standing there waiting, you could just hear and you could just hear it in the distance, and then suddenly it's getting stronger and stronger. And you just hear Jesse with all this energy, just like comes in like fucking let's go. Like he had so much energy, and as someone watching that, knowing where your mindset was prior to that, and seeing you like actually like kick its ass, was so cool to watch for me.
It must have been good for you too, because it
was inspiring.
We're about to finish this. We might do this.
100%. It was inspiring for me because I'm about to do my second.
There's a tremendous amount of work that you guys have done to pull all this together too, and like
in some ways,
it's not just the person running, but
the running was
I've said to everybody that I've spoken to that the running was the easiest bit about that week in Tassie, and I think in a lot of ways, probably on reflection, it's probably the same for everybody. In that the actual running part was the bit where you just go and do your job.
And you could switch off.
The job was what you're prepared for, right? Yeah, there was preparation around all the other stuff. But it was all the other stuff that really probably ended up, ironically, being the unknown stuff. And what you think is going to be the unknown, the running, was really the known quantity. We all know how to run. We all know how to dial in. We all know how to get
I want to do it again.
Sometime next year.
And that's sort of how it played out. And on reflection, everybody has sort of shared something pretty similar that I got on with it. I got the job done when I was running. The ironic challenges were all the other stuff that go along with it that you can't really prepare for and you don't know and you can try and all those bits and pieces.
Even like that last 25 or maybe 15 of my second leg, which is what we were just talking about, where the trail was too intense to go on the full drive. Like, it sounds like exactly what you just described, in the sense that, it was tough for me. That was, the last kind of like 20 out of having done 100K, and it was overnight. It was in the like early hours of the morning, and it was the most technical, kind of difficult part of the trail. And yet at the same time, my head torch was going flat, and I was kind of like, all right. But like, it sounds like it was actually way easier for me to be able to go and do that than it was for you guys who were like massively sleep deprived. I left you after being on the side of the road. You'd been sleeping in the car, and like I'd been knocking on the window, couldn't even wake you guys up, showing how like sleep
Sounds
deprived you
familiar.
were. Exactly.
We got some form.
And then at the same time, you're having to like drive 3 hours.
Leaving the gear on the bonnet.
That's right. All right, the door crew here.
I'll wake up.
Get
I'll
it
see you in
done.
15 Ks.
And so the stress for you guys to like leave, soon after that point and be like, how do we get around to the next point? It was way more than it was for me getting through that little bit. And yeah, that's it.
It was cool, man. Like, and it gave me energy. So when you come in, like, I was flat as hell. I was tired from the week, as we all were. But I was not feeling that excited to be doing that. But when I saw you come in, I got pumped. It was like, let's go.
I'd had these two distinct experiences that I remember that like kind of contributed some of that, and it was the morning for you and the morning that I met you on G&W when you were doing the blood run, where you'd had a rough night. You'd kind of parked up 5K short, but then the sun had come up and we started to take off to get to the main checkpoint. And I just remember that lift in your spirit and that shift. And there's something about the sun coming up that just
100%.
the circadian kind of rhythm, it does its thing, because exactly happened that happened on my leg too, where it was like I was going through dark spots, literally dark when my head torch was going down, and then the sun's coming up and I'm like, this is all working out.
That's what you
and
chase.
put the music on.
That's what you chase, right?
Like I'd run 95k and I had energy to, it felt like I was doing 5 minute 30k's, and I was just like, I'm pumped, I'm ready to go. I was a little bit scared that I had misjudged how many Ks I still had left.
It's 5, it's 15.
But it was coming in with that energy to hand over to you as well. That it felt like a kind of privilege. It was just like,
Where else do
I've
you
got
get that?
this, and you can.
Where else do you get that experience?
Yeah.
Like people, like people might go to church. People might go to. They might chase it in with the booze or what. Just like where else can you just get that moment where like I'm exhausted, but where's this energy coming? Like where it's all there, and it was just laying dormant, and it just comes in.
Yeah, that's
like,
right.
Why don't I have access to it all the time? And like, what do you have to do? Do I have to run across a state to access this thing?
In the middle of the night.
It's like the untapped reserve, and
you got to shed everything away
until you actually tap into that. Yeah, it's an unknown quantity. People talk about it being there.
Like life's good here, and we don't have
it. That's right, and until you do it, and like we joked about it, but it's like going back to day one, mentally in your mind being crook and not getting through that breakdown period of going into 100 Ks and sort of dealing with how does my body handle sickness and whatnot. The answer was, I've got to sleep horizontally in a bed. If you fast forwarded 36 hours, right, or 72 hours, you look back on that and go, I didn't need to do that.
I just got to go. I just got to do it.
Yeah, that's right. But until you do the doing and you tap into the reserve tank that until you've used it, you don't know that it actually exists, what it's like, how it taps in.
You know the journey to get there.
I'm trying to justify it. I'm trying to justify it for him. It's not going to work, is it?
We can come back.
All right, let's do the other way.
Listen,
Can you
if
talk
I had my
about
time
Dave?
again, yes, you're right. It wasn't necessary. That's a big meta reflection for me. That like, you don't have to play. There's something back there, and that's what actually we're out there chasing. Like that's the whole thing. Like, keep trail running weird. It's the pursuit of that. It's not the pursuit of like any stats or any particular numbers or whatever. It's like chasing that. It's ambiguous. It's elusive. The words fall a bit short. Like trying to chase this thing. I don't even. Maybe if we reflected on it a bit more, we could come up with a better description of it. But just chasing that.
Well, I think the other thing
Knowing
to
that
add
there's
to
always
it.
something more.
Yeah, there's something there.
But the energy you had was, I'm about to tick this thing off. I'm almost done here.
Yeah.
So it's
True,
like someone just goes a bit of let's go.
That's
and
right.
And I think we all had a version of that, right? Because at this point we've got 2 legs to go. So I go and do my thing. I get that done. Dan does his thing, and I want to talk about the moment that Dan is finishing, and we're waiting at the water.
Before I was vomiting or after?
What about halfway?
Yeah,
Remember
up the
the energy
mountain.
halfway on that when we were when you're half and
up the mountain,
just doing push-ups.
Yeah, we're drinking and we're
dancing around.
We're doing sprinting challenges.
We've been away for 4 days. He's trying to pour Bogues into my hydration pack.
And the doctor's like, I don't know if I recommend that. I recommend the back.
But to pick up on what you said though, that for us, now you still had 20 or 15k to go at that point, I think, from the top of the mountain there.
Yeah.
But the energy was we were sleep
where is
deprived,
that?
we
Yeah.
were sore, we were tired, we were hungry, we weren't thirsty because we were tipping them in, but I'm picking up on what you said, the energy was high at that point, right? And we're like, we've done this thing, like we're going to coax get Dan home, and
We know Dan's got it
And
covered.
that-
He's going to flip the switch.
Like to try and shift that like energy and excitement to Dan as well. I feel like there's something about this shared experience where it's about sharing that kind of emotional state or energy that is present, and it's like, we've got this energy, Dan needs it too. We're going to try and hand some of that over.
And we're hanging out the car and hooting and hollering at him and
Message
whatever.
received.
We weren't acting
message was received.
we weren't acting like people that had been awake for 4 days and had run 100 k's.
No.
We weren't. It wasn't that wasn't. There was some. We had energy. Where did that come from? And how do I get it again?
Yeah, 100%. It's the magic
juice.
sauce, you know.
Yeah.
And so we've seen you up the top. We've sent you off, and we go, we'll see you at the end, mate. And which was a whole wild thing given the week. You come down the hill. We sort of stood at the water's edge there for a while and just sort of taking in what's going on. And then we go to the end, right? And we're standing there waiting for you to come up over that mountain to really take us home. And that was so emotional.
It was a bit sad.
That's my point.
All of the emotional
But
kind of.
Mitch has the best saying around his experience for the blood run, where he got like a little bit depressed after because it was so intoxicating. The experience of those 3 or 4 days was just this experience, right? And he was a bit depressed after because that's done. And I had a version of that, which is like, first of all, I'm thankful we've finished.
Yeah.
Like everyone's safe, right?
Yeah.
Good. Second thing is we're here, and then we've achieved what we wanted to, but it's over.
Yeah.
And so there's all this energy about finishing and fucking hoorah and this and that and a few tears and this, but then it's like,
There's a bit of a come down.
yeah, a bit of a come down. But we then had an after party, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we did have, as
Definitely maintain the energy for a while.
all the trail running people out there will know that after any good run deserves a nice cold beer.
Yeah.
And so we certainly had a few beers and a meal that night, which was really cool just to hang out together. We're all a
Yeah.
bit fucking tired, but you know, it was almost like someone pulled the plug out at one
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
We're like,
Well, that's. I wonder about that. Even the subsequent weeks, we talked like this phenomenon. It's not really studied much or like described, but that like the post-run blues, and like I wonder if that's the consequence of accessing that energy that you have, like using it all up, and then for the 6-7 weeks afterwards, there's like you don't have
that
juice.
reserve,
You've got to rebuild that juice store that you don't usually use.
Yeah.
and I agree with you, mate. And you know, we talked about in the other podcast that for us, the job wasn't done.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So we still had to go and execute this after.
I didn't
thing.
realise that.
Yeah.
Until I was like a few pints in at the wagon, and I'm like, we got to go do a run now. We got to go do this.
Yeah,
trail
and
run
we've got to
now.
run, and we've got to make sure the activation works and all the stuff,
yeah.
because the brands that are associated to us they want some stuff, and that's all a part of it. But it was an absolute honour for me, and we've talked about this a few times, but for as far as I felt, to have all my mates there with 100 odd people, 120 people there that we didn't know, talking about the experience we had that week.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
And that was a real thrill for me. And then people asking us about it and talking about it. There's a big mural on the wall of, you know, who we are, and we'd raised $45,000 for the Leukemia Foundation, so that was like a massive tick. And I guess the thing I want to wrap with is like, where were you, or where was your head at, and how were you feeling at that point where you've achieved something you've never achieved before? You fought a battle in your mind about the overnight thing and achieving 100K collectively, beating things that you thought you might not achieve. Then we're there talking to people about the experience that you've just had. Like, where does that sit with you as far as, was it a bit surreal? Was it, were you proud? Were you a bit, fucking, like this is what I'm doing? Like
At that time, I was confused. I think I was just
Yeah.
swept up in the, like, intoxicated by my own dopeness for a bit. Just felt really dope, you know.
Dopamine.
I just felt really good.
Oh, we didn't
but
even
it was
touch
confusing.
on the rap. We've got like, we haven't even gone to the soundtrack.
We'll have to include that. Include this playlist. I at that time I kind of like didn't. I was just, it was a bit confusing, a bit. Well, there's a mix of emotions and stuff. After that, like subsequent to that, I think the reflection is like, we engineered this thing to find that elusive thing that you can't describe, you know, finding that energy when you're at the end of it. Like, we just engineered this event to just explore ourselves and explore that phenomena of like getting to the bottom of it. Like Tyler Durden in Fight Club, we've got no Great War, no Great Depression. You know, our life is very hygienic and clear cut and planned. And so like setting up this event to like go out and get a bit wild and find whatever's going on behind the curtain, we did that. And then the party, I think, in retrospect, if I had a chance to do it again, it would be like sharing that part of the trip with people more. Like I told I was caught up in the dopeness of it all, but like trying to find a way to share that experience with people is what it's all about. It's like what life's about, isn't it? It's like I don't know how to describe it. It's an elusive thing, you know. We just call it dope shit. Just doing dope shit and getting a window behind the curtain, understanding yourself a bit better, but sharing that with other people. We got to do a bit of that at that party, I think. I was running with this bloke, and he'd just run his first marathon. Like I was carrying my kid. I was running sweeper on that run, and I was carrying my kid, and he was talking about his first marathon and how awesome it was. And I was like, yeah, that's really awesome. That's sick. And then at the event, I remember catching eyes with him while I was telling the story about running my 100K. And like I think he was kind of like, you just kind of like, oh shit, I didn't realize that you'd just run 100Ks. And he was, and there was this moment, like I just got to share that like you can do something else as well. You can do dope shit.
Yeah.
I don't know if I articulate. It's about sharing it. Yeah, it's about doing stuff for others, as you mentioned. There's something behind it. I don't know how to describe it. There's something very fulfilling and visceral about it. But then sharing that and finding the path together to get to that and live there would be great.
I think it gave a real good opportunity to share the event in person. Because that's something that people take for granted, that you go and do, you know, we had that type of a week.
Yeah, it was human.
And ordinarily, you'd wrap it up and you've got people that you talk to online, you catch up with your friends and your family and whatnot. But it was a real privilege to be able to have a whole bunch of people there 24 hours after we'd racked it, to be able to share that experience with people in the flesh, in person. Because the entire event was not about individuals or 5 people doing their thing. The entire event was about sharing to a broader community. So to be able to do that in a personal setting, I thought was really cool. And that's the kind of stuff like that. Having a run with those guys, having conversations, sharing with that group was really something special.
Well, it didn't touch me like the import. Like we're doing that for people that can't, and it was a platitude prior to the because people can't actually do what we did. There's some people that aren't allowed to or aren't able to, and like at the party, I think I pretended that I understood that's what it was all about for the whole trip. But then at the party, I actually, it landed on, we had a few experiences where we kind of like, oh yeah, people actually can't do this. And so we should do it, and we should try and share it with them if we can.
Well, I think there's something huge about that sharing piece where like I think about some of the things that I've done in life that have been awesome, but I've done them on my own, and that has just taken something away from it. It's, you know, in those moments you just like, I just want to be here with the people that I love, to be able to share this experience so that they can have a part of this as well. And I think that's what I loved about Tassie Trail, was like, not only did we get to share about, you know, the visceral experience of doing the run itself, but then at the end sharing about that with people in the broader community about how impactful these things can be. And the idea of that impact being bigger than just us, being bigger for the people who can't, and being able to put that energy towards something that is meaningful in other people's lives, for those people who can't, and making it bigger than ourselves, and it's like sharing about that stuff. That's where it's most meaningful. I think I felt really conflicted kind of towards the end there, where it was like knowing that all of that was over and being like it was one of the best things that I've done in life, and kind of already being at that point of being like, yeah, this was pretty bloody awesome, and it's over, and so like having that conflict of in the moment being like, what's the next thing? But then also being like, no, actually, I just need to be in this moment, and I just need to be with this and these people, and fully appreciate where we are right now, and not be thinking about
I like
the
that
future.
being like present in it, because I think naturally as runners you go, I've achieved something, what am I doing next? But I like that you like in the way you said it, it's like, let's just take in like what's happened here, because like I can honestly say, and there's memorabilia hanging up from the trip in the bar, right? But I should probably return that key to Tassie Trail, but not gonna. But that experience, and not too dissimilar to the feeling that you had around your first 100. We will have this feeling as a group, all 7 of us that went down, around the experience that we had from the start of when we all landed, when it's in the sunshine, at the RV waiting for you, while you're schlepping that big fucking bar, through to the moment where we were all staying in the house together, where everything had wrapped up. We had all of our family there coming down to see us in different forms. And it was just this beautiful time together, and we happened to raise a lot of money for someone else. We achieved personal things, and we actually had a good time in the fact that we did stuff that maybe people don't normally do. And I think that for myself was a real highlight, and that it all went well, that no one died, no one got hurt. The after party was a bit of a stress for me personally, so that actually like went the way that we wanted it to.
Bravo.
Well, no, but it's not about that.
That was good.
That we all lent in.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to you guys, like, the job's not done. We have to go and like execute this thing. And you guys were all talking to people and connecting, and that's where culture starts, and that's where community starts. And the whole reason we keep doing this thing that we call Bloody Mission is that the communities that we connect with become part of who we are, like they're part of our crew, and we go and do other things like that, and that's why it becomes powerful. That's the juice that we get together, and I want to do more of it, and we will do more of it, and there's plenty of plans that we've got for the next 12 months to go and do that again. But I agree with you, the sitting in the moment and just taking in what we all achieved on a whole bunch of levels was cool to just take in and just have that moment in one of the dopest places in the country. Like Hobart is the actual best. It is the best.
With
Good
some
food.
of the best people.
Like
those boys from Newbar's rule. And like even the runners, they were just met some people are wonderful in Hobart.
And can I
How did we
also
get so
say
lucky?
on that kind of a general theme that I'm thinking about too is like it was one of the best things I've done. It wasn't easy. And like it was bloody hard, and so it's kind of like to do some pretty impactful, amazing things in life. You got to put yourself out there. You got to you put yourself in that pain and suffering. You got to take yourself through it, and other people, and that good things in life don't come easy. You got to push.
And it was pretty remarkable, I thought, and we've probably all talked about this a fair bit on reflection, and I don't really understand the reasons why. But we had. We'd all had our preparations for, righto, there's going to be some sleep deprivation here. There's going to be things that don't go to plan. We're going to be well outside a lot of comfort zones. We had 7 people and we bought an RV that sleeps 5. Straight
you're
up,
welcome
right?
for me going to the hotel on that first night. By the
You're
way.
not getting out of that. You're not getting out of that.
I had to go stay at Hilton.
And can I just reinforce 5 children?
I'd like to thank Ridges, our sponsors, for not one. There was a whole bunch of stuff that we knew right from the outset that was going to going to test individual mettle, but it was also going to test relationships. And in hindsight, we've chatted about this. There was not a second where there were things that were like, there was plenty of times where things were ordinary in a lot of ways. Sleep deprivation, injury niggles, problems with logistics, all of that kind of stuff. Things not going to plan, things having to be changed. And through all of that, there was no rub.
There was no drama.
There was no
If
drama.
I'm going through a dark spot, it didn't
unique.
get turned to anyone else. In fact, you turned to someone else and they were like,
Everyone just
how
shined
can I
their own
help
lights
you?
on it.
Yeah. And that is pretty unique because it's, that's a bit of a rarity that you go through that type of a period of time with that type of stuff all thrown into a melting pot
That
and come out of
intensity.
it going, no, it was cruisy as.
Yeah.
It was a sick time, and like I've got a picture up there of all of us in front of that mural thing at the wagon after that I hold in. That's like one of my favourite pictures ever.
Yeah.
And it just perfectly encapsulates the week. We all look a bit fucked, but we're happy and we're thrilled to be there. Yeah. And it was just an absolute pleasure. And I'm stoked that you to relive it again 5 months later. This has actually been like really good for me to just go, fuck, go back.
I don't know if it was entertaining for anyone that might be listening, but this was sick.
I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah, we're not putting this one up. We're just going to play it ourselves.
Send it to the
Put it on in
WhatsApp
the
group.
car.
When metaphorically, that picture too, we're all kind of leaning on each other.
Yeah.
It's just
Oh,
pretty
that's
beautiful.
deep. I like
isn't
that.
it?
I like that.
I don't. We got lucky.
Yeah.
I know there was a tremendous amount of work, but there was something there's something higher than us. We got lucky that we're a tremendous group of dudes. I feel like a good guy in this group of guys.
Someone picked the crew pretty well, didn't they?
Yeah. Bravo.
No dickhead policy.
No dickheads.
Says the dickhead that might have
said
said. Good on you, boys. Well, thank you for doing the pod, and thank you for
Thanks
coming
for
up.
having us,
Thanks for
it's
making
sick.
it all happen.
Yeah.
Well,
Enjoy.
you think it's all done? It's not fucking done.
Yeah,
We've got plans next year, but I don't know. It's just a joy. I don't want to harp on more than it is. It was a joy, and can't wait to do it again.
Yep, agreed.
And now Jesse's hanging up our Bloody Mission hoodies. If you're still listening to this, Mum, we do have hoodies available. It's perfect timing coming into summer. So 35-degree days. Who doesn't want a hoodie?
For all of our European,
breathable
all of
hoodies.
our European
Any European listeners? No? Okay. We've got a question on the line. Is there a question coming in?
Can you ship to France? Yes, we can. Absolutely. Yeah.
It might be time to eat some food and crush a beer. What do you reckon?
Yeah.
I don't
Oh,
know.
There you go, perfect.
Perfect timing.
Power down.
And remember to follow, like, and share our content, as this really helps with growing the podcast. Cheers.